Ever catch yourself just kind of like stopping and thinking, wait a minute, what's it all about? You know, those big questions about why we think the things we think or how we should live life.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, that's basically like being a philosopher, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to dig into today, looking at Basil Bessarion.
Oh, cool.
He lived a long time ago, back in 1400s, like from 1399 to 1472.
Wow.
And he was really all about that, like questioning and seeing different perspectives.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
what made this guy so unique?
Well, think about it. He lived during this crazy time of change.
Mm.
Ancient Greek ideas, especially Plato, were making a comeback in the West.
Yeah.
And Bessarion was like right at the center of it all.
So not just ideas, but like religious stuff too, right?
Oh, yeah, huge religious divides. He was navigating all that.
Wow, that must have been intense.
It was. And what's really wild is how he was able to bridge those different worlds.
Yeah.
Like bringing his Greek knowledge to the Latin West,
Right.
but not in some like simple way. There were all these different forces pulling him in different directions.
A bit.
So today we're going to try and understand how he actually like acted as a philosopher.
Okay, cool.
How did he deal with these different schools of thought? How did he handle those big debates? And what can we learn from him today?
Let's dive in.
All right, so first things first, where did this guy even come from?
Okay, so Bessarion started out as Basil, born in Trebizond.
Trebizond.
Yeah, it was part of the Byzantine Empire.
Gotcha.
And he became a monk, taking the name Bessarion in 1423. His early intellectual life was all about Byzantium, that Eastern Roman Empire. It was a real hub for Greek learning. He even studied under John Cordus Minos.
Okay, so classic Greek education.
Exactly. But here's where things get really interesting. His philosophical and mathematical skills really took off when he studied with Gemistos Pletho in Mistra.
Plato, I feel like we're going to hear that name again.
Oh yeah, Pletho was a major intellectual force in his own right.
Not just some teacher then.
Definitely not.
Huh.
He was known for his own big project, a comparison of Plato and Aristotle.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and Pletho was Team Plato all the way. So this whole atmosphere of debate and deep thinking about those ancient philosophers really shaped Bessarion,
Makes sense.
right? That Bessarion's life took this major turn when he became the Metropolitan of Nicaea.
Okay, a big promotion in the church.
It was. And that led to him being part of the Council of Ferrara, Florence.
Ah, yes, that famous council.
Starting in 1437.
This was that huge meeting between the East and West, right?
It was a big deal. They were trying to unify the Greek and Latin churches.
Largely because the West was promising military support to Byzantium.
Yeah, the Ottomans were really closing in.
Exactly. So Bessarion was thrown right into the thick of it.
Right into the fire.
Yeah.
He initially had some big reservations about this major theological issue, the Filioque controversy.
DeFilio.
Yeah, it was all about where the Holy Spirit comes from, a huge sticking point between East and West.
Right. The Greeks believed it proceeded from the Father alone.
And the Roman side said from the Father and the Son.
A major theological roadblock.
It was. But because of that really shaky political situation in Greece,
Yeah, those Ottomans.
and after some serious study of early church fathers, he changed his mind.
Wow. A big shift.
It was us. In 1439, he gave this speech, his Oratio Dogmatica de Unione, arguing for the Union.
And I guess that decision had some major consequences for his own life, too?
Definitely.
That.
That same year, on what ended up being his final trip to Greece,
Really?
Bessarion was made a cardinal.
Wow.
This was the start of a long and powerful career in the Roman Curia. He was a diplomat, oversaw Greek rite abbeys, even almost became pope.
Almost popes.
It's true. But even with all that political and religious stuff going on,
Yeah.
he never stopped being a scholar.
I guess you could say that was his true calling.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And one of his biggest passions was saving Greek cultural heritage after the fall of Constantinople in 1453.
Yes. That was a devastating event.
It was. And this is where we really see him acting as a philosopher, not just with ideas,
Right.
but by doing something to protect knowledge for the future.
So what did he do?
Well, he was really afraid that what he called the beacons of the earth would be lost forever.
Beacons of the Earth. What's that?
Books. He became this avid book collector,
Oh, cool.
building a library to keep those treasures safe.
That's amazing.
He famously said, "Without books, the tomb would cover the names of men, just as it covers their bodies."
Oh.
And around 1468, his collection became the heart of the Biblioteca Marciana in Venice.
That's incredible. A real legacy.
For sure. And he wasn't just looking back at the past, he was also trying to shape the future.
Oh, how so?
He really pushed for a new crusade to liberate Greece from the Ottomans.
A fighter as well.
He went on tons of diplomatic missions trying to rally support.
I guess that was a tough sell at the time.
It was. In the end, it didn't pan out.
So we've got Bessarion the statesman, the diplomat, the church leader. But underneath it all, he was a deep thinker, a theological philosopher.
Absolutely. And his views on theology actually evolved quite a bit, especially after that Council of Ferrara-Florence.
Right. He had to confront those differences head on.
He did.
So how did his thinking change?
Well, what's fascinating is that he started out very much rooted in traditional Greek or Orthodox views. He even had some doubts about certain Roman doctrines and the scholastic theology that was big in the West.
So how did he end up defending the filioque?
The council forced him to really wrestle with these different ideas.
I see.
And we see this in his writings, his refutations, where he actually went against guys like Maximus Planudes and Marcos Eugenigos.
Big names in the Orthodox world.
Where he was showing some serious intellectual flexibility.
Yeah, that's a big shift from where he began.
It is.
So he was willing to actually change his mind based on what he learned.
He was. And later on, even after becoming the Patriarch of Constantinople.
He never actually lived there, though, right?
No, the political situation made that impossible.
Yeah.
But in his writings, he stressed the primacy of the Roman pontiff.
Wow. So a full embrace of the Roman side.
In his encyclical letter to the Greeks, he urged them to restore that union between the churches.
He really went all in.
He did. He also got deep into the details of the Eucharist.
The Eucharist?
Yeah, defending the epiclesis.
Oh, what?
The epiclesis. It's the calling down of the Holy Spirit on the bread and wine.
Oh.
He wrote about that in his work on the Eucharist.
So defending an Orthodox practice within a broader acceptance of Roman authority.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how even small disagreements could spark these huge philosophical and theological debates.
Like his clash with George of Trebizond.
Oh, yeah, that one was a doozy.
What was that all about?
Well, it started with a specific passage in the Vulgate Gospel of John.
The Vulgate, that's the Latin translation, right?
Right. Bessarion questioned the wording of John 21.22. The Vulgate said, "So I will that he remain till I come."
Okay.
But Bessarion suggested it should be, "If I will that he remain till I come."
So a tiny change.
Seems small, right?
Yeah.
But George of Trebizond defended the Vulgate wording.
And this got them into a big fight.
For Bessarion, it wasn't just about getting the words right. He saw it as connected to George's millenarian beliefs.
Millenarian beliefs.
The idea that John was still alive, waiting for Christ's second coming.
Wow. Okay.
Bessarion, leaning on the work of Nicholas Maniacutia,
Another scholar.
really stressed the need to check Latin texts against the original Greek.
Makes sense.
He argued that accurate interpretation was crucial for sound theology.
So even in these seemingly tiny debates, he was acting as a philosopher.
Using reasoned textual analysis, historical context, to figure out his position.
And speaking of philosophy, while Bessarion is often labeled a Platonist.
Someone who follows Plato.
Right. We can't forget his deep engagement with Aristotle, too.
Oh, absolutely. That's crucial to understanding him.
So tell me about that.
Well, his translation of Aristotle's Metaphysics from 1446 to 1451 was a big deal.
Really?
Thinkers like Nicholas of Cusa and Ginoza Manetti praised it for its clarity.
What made it so good?
They specifically mentioned how Bessarion translated ad sensum.
Ad sensum? What's that?
It means focusing on the meaning, not just translating word for word.
Oh, so not just the literal words, but the ideas behind them.
Exactly. It's like translating the spirit of what was said.
That's impressive.
It takes a deep understanding of philosophy.
And it sounds like Bessarion had that.
He did. His library was full of Aristotelian texts.
Wow. So he wasn't just familiar with Aristotle himself.
He also knew the scholastic tradition that's built on Aristotle.
The scholastics, those medieval thinkers?
Right? He even had works by Thomas Aquinas.
So he was plugged into the philosophical scene of his time?
He was.
Which is interesting given that big clash with George of Trebizond.
Right.
It shows Bessarion had a much wider range than just Platonism.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And his expertise in both Aristotle and scholasticism comes up again in this fascinating episode.
Oh, what happened?
Well, there was this dispute between theologians from Leuven.
Leuven, that's in Belgium, right?
That's right. It was a university.
Okay.
And they were arguing about future contingents.
Future contingents. That sounds complicated.
It is basically whether the future is already determined or if there's real freedom and chance.
Ah, okay. The classic free will debate.
Exactly. And Bessarion steps in as a mediator, drawing on his own knowledge and bringing in other experts like Francesco della Rovere.
Who later became Pope Sixtus V.
That's him.
So Bessarion was a respected voice in these debates.
He was. And this whole thing challenges the idea that there was this hard line between Platonic humanism and Aristotelian scholasticism.
Right.
Bessarion could move between those worlds.
Which brings us to, I guess, the main event, Bessarion versus George of Trebizond and his big defense of Plato.
Ah, yes, that was a defining moment for Bessarion.
So what went down?
Well, George of Trebizond, who was a huge Aristotle fan,
We've established that.
he wrote this scathing attack on Plato in his Comparatio Philosophorum Platonis et Aristotelis,
Catchy title.
right around 1458.
So just a few years after Constantinople fell.
Yeah, and he basically said that Plato was ignorant, impious, and even vicious,
Wow, harsh.
while praising Aristotle as the peak of wisdom, piety, and virtue.
So a total takedown of Plato.
It was, and there was this kind of apocalyptic vibe to it, too.
Apocalyptic,
Yeah, he predicted the coming of a fourth Plato,
maybe Plato, or even Bessarion himself.
who would threaten the Latin West. He even linked this to the fall of Byzantium.
So not just an academic debate then.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
This was personal and potentially damaging to Bessarion's reputation.
he had to respond.
He did,
So what did he do?
over about a decade, with help from his friends.
I guess you need friends for this kind of thing.
He wrote his most famous work in Calumniatorum Platonis,
Which means
against the slander of Plato.
straight to the point.
It was a carefully constructed and thorough defense.
So a real labor of love.
You could say that.
And I imagine writing this was a philosophical act in itself,
It was. He first wrote it in Greek,
his native language.
but he realized to really make an impact in the West, he needed it in Latin.
Ah, the language of scholarship.
Exactly. So he translated himself
Mm.
and then got his secretary, Nicola Perotti, who's a really skilled Latin writer,
So a bit of a dream team.
to polish the style, make it more accessible to a Latin audience.
That's smart.
Although sometimes that focus on style made it a little harder to get all the philosophical nuances across.
Right, trading off some precision for readability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is that during this process, Bessarion's own view of how Plato and Aristotle related actually changed.
Really? How so?
Well, initially, he was influenced by Plato.
Team Plato.
He saw them as completely opposed, like representing different worldviews.
Okay.
But then he came across this lost work by George of Trebizond.
Oh, the irony.
It was about nature and art,
Nature and art.
and it got Bessarion thinking differently.
So George of Trebizond inadvertently helped Bessarion refine his arguments.
He did.
That's wild.
It is.
So what was Bessarion's new view?
Well, inspired by Simplicius, a late antique commentator,
Okay.
he started seeing Plato and Aristotle as more compatible.
Compatible.
Yeah.
But how could he reconcile them after George's attack?
He argued that they were often looking at different things or different levels of reality.
Hmm.
So Aristotle was focused on the natural world, and Plato was more concerned with theological and metaphysical questions.
So their differences were more about emphasis than fundamental conflict.
Exactly.
That's clever.
It was a strategic move, too.
How so?
Well, by finding common ground,
Yeah,
he could defend Plato without directly attacking Aristotle,
right.
which could have alienated people in the Roman Curia who were big Aristotle fans.
He had to play the political game too.
He did. He even quoted respected scholastic authorities.
The scholastics again?
Yeah, like Albert the Great and Thomas
The
Aquinas,
same.
to support his interpretations.
So he was showing off his knowledge of both sides.
Exactly. And by doing that,
Yeah.
he could point out the flaws in George's understanding of Aristotle.
So turning the tables on his attacker?
Precisely. The third book of Inclumniatorum focuses on this,
Okay.
drawing a lot from material given to him by the Dominican theologian Giovanni Gatti.
So a collaborative effort.
It was.
Mm.
And by emphasizing that harmony between Plato and Aristotle, Bessarion could also distance himself from Gemistos Plethos' reputation.
Which was...
Well, some saw Plethos as a bit too unorthodox religiously.
Right. So a delicate balancing act.
Okay, that way.
So this, in Calumniatorum, was a very carefully structured response.
It was 6 books mirroring George's own work.
Okay, a point-by-point rebuttal.
You could say that.
So how did he tackle George's accusations?
Well, Book 1 goes straight for the claim that Plato was ignorant.
Okay.
Bessarion lays out a powerful argument for Plato's wisdom.
Oh.
He points to major figures like Cicero, Augustine,
Heavy hitters.
and all sorts of early church fathers who admired Plato.
So appealing to authority.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He even brings up the Pythagorean practice of secrecy.
The Pythagoreans, those ancient Greek mathematicians.
Right. He said that might be why Plato didn't discuss everything openly.
Interesting.
He also emphasized Plato's knowledge across many different fields.
So painting Plato as a polymath.
Exactly.
And then book 2 dives into the big question of piety.
Yeah, comparing their religious beliefs.
This was a major accusation, right?
It was George had said that Plato was impious.
Right.
So Bessarion brings in the Neoplatonists.
The Neoplatonists.
Yeah, thinkers like Plotinus Proclus and Simplicius.
Okay.
He used them to argue that Plato's ideas about creation, the soul, and reality
Big topics.
were actually more in line with Christian doctrine than Aristotle's.
So flipping the script.
He did. And he had to deal with some tricky Platonic ideas, too.
Like what?
Well, things like the nature of matter and metasomatosis.
Metasomatosis.
The idea that souls can move between bodies.
Right. Reincarnation.
Kind of.
Yeah.
He got around those by using careful distinctions and allegorical interpretations.
So making them more palatable to a Christian audience?
Exactly.
Clever.
And he kept hammering home this point
What point?
that Aristotle was often critiquing Plato's words, not his true meaning.
Ah, so a misinterpretation.
He was echoing Simplicius here.
Okay. So then book 3 turns the focus to George's own understanding of Aristotle.
Right, time for some payback.
So he was saying George got Aristotle wrong, too.
He did. This book highlights inconsistencies and problems in George's interpretation.
Like what kind of problems?
Well, he covers a wide range of stuff, from sacrifices and the role of poets
Okay.
to more complex things like the immortality of the soul and divine providence.
Heavy stuff.
He even points out this tension in Aristotle,
Between.
his idea of the soul and the eternity of the universe.
So those two ideas clash.
Bessarion argues they do. He says it makes individual immortality hard to reconcile within a purely Aristotelian framework.
So he's using Aristotle against George.
In a way.
Mm-hmm.
He also brings up interpretations by later Aristotelian commentators,
Like who?
guys like Averroes and Alexander of Aphrodisias.
Okay.
He points out that while their views might fit with Aristotle's texts,
Yeah.
they actually contradict Christian beliefs.
So even Aristotle's own followers had some problematic ideas.
According to Bessarion, they did.
And then book 4 deals with the accusations about Plato's character.
Right, George had said that Plato was a bad guy.
Not virtuous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Bessarion jumps in to defend him. Well, he offers this spiritual interpretation of love in Plato's Symposium and Phaedrus.
Those are 2 of Plato's dialogues
Right.
about love.
He contrasts this with George's more literal and negative reading.
So showing a different side of Plato,
He even uses Herodotus
the ancient Greek historian.
to provide context for Plato's ideas about communal living and women in his republic.
Okay.
That was one of the more controversial parts of Plato's philosophy.
Right.
And crucially, he directly refutes George's fourth Plato prophecy.
That apocalyptic prediction.
He says the fall of Byzantium was just part of this natural cycle of empires.
So not some evil Platonic plot.
Exactly. He even suggests Plato's philosophy could have helped prevent such collapses.
Interesting.
He ends Book 4 by calling out George's hypocrisy.
How so?
He points out that George had actually said good things about Plato in his own earlier translations of Plato's Parmenides and Laws.
So George had contradicted himself.
He had.
Then book 5 gets really specific.
It does. It zeroes in on errors in George's translation of Plato's Laws.
Ah, so a direct attack on George's scholarship.
It was Bessarion wanted to show that George didn't really understand Plato.
Which would undermine his entire argument.
Exactly. Throughout the In
Yeah.
Coloniatorum.
Yeah.
Bessarion makes a point of offering his own translations of Plato.
To counter George's version.
Right. He also introduces Latin readers to Aristotelian commentators, Alexander of Aphrodisias,
Right.
whose interpretations showed some potential issues with Aristotle from a Christian perspective.
So he was playing both sides a little.
He was. It was all part of his strategy to present Plato as a more reliable philosophical guide for Christian faith,
Okay.
in line with the early church fathers and Greek theologians.
So a very deliberate approach.
Absolutely.
And then finally, book 6, the De Natera et Arte, offers Bessarion's own view of Plato and Aristotle.
Right. It analyzes a passage from Aristotle's Physics,
Okay.
and even though it was written before the other books,
Totally.
it's where he first openly names George as his opponent.
Ah, so the gloves come off.
And it's where he lays out this idea of Plato and Aristotle being complementary.
Focusing on different aspects of reality.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like a test case for his larger project,
Okay.
applying this harmonious approach to a specific philosophical problem.
And that problem is
Well, it has implications for Plato's theory of forms and the concept of divine causality.
pretty heady stuff.
It is.
So this, In Calumniatorum Platonis, was a huge intellectual achievement.
It was.
Well, what kind of impact did it have?
Well, it was significant, George's Comparatio.
His attack on Plato.
It didn't really circulate widely,
Okay.
and it was only printed after George died in a messed-up edition.
Oh, no.
But Bessarion cleverly used the printing press.
Which was a new invention at the time.
The In Calumniatorum was first printed in 1469.
So he had a much wider audience.
He did. And it's interesting.
What's interesting?
That same year, the printers also published works by other Platonists.
Like who?
Guys like Alcinous and Epilegus.
Okay.
It suggests a deliberate effort, maybe even involving Bessarion.
To promote Platonism.
And his work was reprinted several times, increasing its reach even more.
So it became a key text in the revival of Plato.
It did.
And did it have a lasting impact on other thinkers?
Absolutely. Bessarion's way of understanding Plato through a Christian lens,
Yeah.
it provided a framework for later figures.
Right.
Marsilio Ficino and Francesco Caetani da Diaceto.
Big names in Renaissance philosophy.
They were. And they drew heavily on those Neoplatonic sources that Bessarion championed.
Right.
Ficino even went further.
He did.
He compared Plato directly to Moses.
Wow, a bold move.
It was.
And the
Yep.
In Calumniatorum with all its quotes and arguments.
Yeah. It became a valuable resource for 16th century writers.
Like,
Guys like Louis Leroy and Symphorien Champier.
so a lasting legacy.
For sure. Although people didn't always interpret Bessarion's work the same way.
Right, perspectives change over time.
They do.
So how did different people see it?
Well, Bessarion himself described it sometimes as just a defense of Plato,
Okay.
and other times as a more balanced comparison between Plato and Aristotle.
So even he wasn't totally consistent.
No, but it definitely contributed to the popularity of the comparatio genre.
For comparatio.
Yeah, the tradition of comparing philosophers.
Right.
But it was mostly seen as a strong defense of Plato.
Which led to some problems later on, right?
It did. It made Bessarion a target during that anti-Platonic movement in the late 16th century,
Ah, yes, that backlash against Plato.
especially among Jesuit scholars.
So I guess not everyone saw him negatively.
No other religious orders like the Franciscans and Augustinians.
Okay.
They had a more positive view of him well into the 17th century.
So his legacy was mixed.
It was, and his influence wasn't limited to just philosophy.
Oh, where else did it reach?
It reached into the universities.
Interesting.
His portrayal of Aristotle as mainly focused on the natural world,
Right.
it provided arguments against purely metaphysical interpretations of Aristotle.
So pushing back against a certain way of reading Aristotle.
Exactly. And that influenced thinkers like Pietro Pomponazzi and Francesco V. Mercano, even though they used those arguments to reach different conclusions about the soul.
So Bessarion's ideas sparked debate across different fields.
They did.
So looking back at Bessarion's life,
Yeah.
he was a really multifaceted figure.
He was.
A theologian, an Aristotelian scholar, and a champion of Plato.
He really was all of those things.
And in a way, he embodied this idea of acting as a philosopher.
Absolutely. He was
Mhm.
driven to understand different schools of thought, to engage with them critically,
And even to bridge them.
right, in this really complex historical moment.
He wasn't afraid of tough questions.
He wasn't. And his dedication to preserving and sharing knowledge is clear.
His library is a testament to that.
It is.
His story shows that being a philosopher isn't about just accepting one viewpoint.
It's about engaging with different ideas and searching for a deeper understanding.
Exactly. And I think this deep dive into his life really highlights how important it is to try and understand those different intellectual traditions and even to find connections between them. It makes you think about the challenges we face even today
Right.
in understanding historical figures and their ideas.
Across time.
And even in our own time, trying to bridge different perspectives.
Yeah, that's always a challenge.
What can we learn from Bessarion's approach to intellectual conflict
That's a good question.
and the value he placed on preserving diverse ways of thinking?
Something for all of us to ponder as we continue our own explorations.
Absolutely.